Okay. So just to say welcome to everybody. As you will have just heard, we are recording the session and it will be appearing on YouTube later. If you could keep your cameras off until the Q&A, please. And also if you could mute your mic so we don't have any background noises as well, that'd be great. Thank you very much. We mentioned that we'll post it on YouTube later. If you wanted to see our previous GeogLives, the QR code, which is on the screen now, will take you to the link for those as well. So we do like to have questions about our topic and for our contributors. So if you'd like to post any questions in the chat, please do. We've got people monitoring the chat who can round up questions later on. And also, we like to know where everybody's from. We'd like to know where you're joining us from tonight. So if you'd like to tell us that as well, that'd be lovely. If you'd like to tweet us, generally we are part of the Early Years and Primary Phase Committee of the GA. So our Twitter or our X link is on the screen as well. And we do ask for feedback for sessions as well, so we can make sure that they are providing what would be useful for you. Okay, Anthony, thank you. So if you can remember as well, the people who are contributing today are sharing their ideas of work. But if you're very welcome to use anything that you hear about today, but if you could just credit those and acknowledge the source if you are using it, please. And the copyright will reside with the EYPPC and those people contributing today as well. Okay, Anthony, thank you. So the agenda for tonight. So I'm Kate Glanville, I'm doing the welcome for you. So after that, Dr Tessa Willie will be talking about the latest version of the Primary Geography Journal. And then we have contributions from Anthony Barlow, Edd Moore, and Dr Paula Owens, who'll be talking about different elements of energy. Sophie Brack has created some book recommendations about energy. So if you wanted to have a look at those, you can scan the QR code and that will appear later on as well. So if you wanted to have a look at book recommendations for that, that is there. Okay, Anthony, thank you. I can't see the bottom comment there, but moving on to the Geographical Association Conference. So that will be in April, the 4th to the 6th of April, with a focus on geography for everybody. It will be at the University of Manchester. If you did want to join us for that, there is an early bird discount up until the 19th, so just a couple more days if you wanted to get that early bird discount. After that, you can still book, but not the early rate. And that QR code that's on screen now will take you to the booking page for the GA conference. The next GeogLive, so we have our GeogLives 19 and 20 ready and waiting to go. So GeogLive 19 will be about rivers and will be on the 28th of February at the same time, so at 5 o'clock till 6. And then GeogLive 20 will be looking at fieldwork, and that will be in April, so the 24th of April. And over to Tess then to talk about primary geography.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kate. And thank you, everyone. Wonderful to be here again. And as ever, absolutely delighted to be representing the editorial board for Primary Geography Journal, which many of you here have done, or I very much hope will write for at some point. So we've got a really, truly wonderful edition, which is due out literally any minute. So we're very, very excited about it. Sharon, who's here this evening, is our editor, our guest editor for this edition, and it is absolutely cracking. It's a really, really lovely one. It's the first time we've done one with a theme of kindness, and we're looking at kind geographies, which I think is a really, really important theme to have at this point, thinking about other people, that consideration and so on. And it starts off in a wonderful way, looking at acts of geographical kindness, so random acts, lots of things that children can do, thinking about geographical kindness and doing little things often, which is often the most important way. We've also got a wonderful article on baby geographies, not very, very little geographies, but our youngest geographers and their perspective and their understandings. So looking at things in baby steps and from baby perspectives, really interesting take on that. We've then got really delighted to have an article featuring Michael Rosen, and he's talking about significant places and why they're significant to us, why they're important, and he's in conversation with Ben Ballin. So that's a really magical article that we've got there, and why places mean so much to us. We've got an article as well on looking at a day without racism. I mean, if we think about it, it's pretty rare that we actually go through a time when we're not encountering some form of racism. So it's a great article on what it would be like to have a day without racism if it vanished for a day, what that world would be like, visualizing a kinder, non-racist society. Paula, who's also doing a presentation, has done a wonderful article on local inquiries and thinking about with Peter, forgive me for not getting his surname right, but with Peter on who's done a lot of work on linking history as well with geography, and what stories tell us about local places, what different stories can we read into it, what can places reveal. So that's a really exciting one. Another one on relational geographies. We've done lots of focus on scarecrows, but this is the turn of the crows to come back, and it's looking at our relationship with more than human beings and turning that on its head, looking at kinship with more than humans. Another article from Jane Whittle looking at welcoming Ukrainian refugees. So lots of interesting stuff on that. And then also a wonderful article again on turning the inanimate into animate. So looking at the fact that we should give equal recognition to inanimate objects, rivers, mountains, and so on, and that they have an equal importance to people, flora and fauna. So the inanimate comes to life. And then just to say that we have our interview is with the artist Paul Harfleet, all about connecting nature and the challenges that he's had and the strength that he has drawn from nature, and the importance of the portrayal of kindness through that. So I commend this edition to you. It'll be out very, very soon, and some wonderful, rich, really heartening material in that. Thank you, Anthony. If we can just go on to the GA resources. These are the ones that are focused specifically on our theme today. We've got In the Know energy and In the Know resources. So there are a couple of really helpful publications to support the work that we're looking at today. And of course, lots and lots of other resources and publications for you on the GA site and on the website. So that's it, I think, from me, Anthony. Thank you.
Thanks, Tess. That's brilliant. So, as you said, lots of different things coming up and lots of things already available that we can look at as well in terms of energy. So, first off, our first presenter for this evening then is Anthony. So I'll pass over to him.
Thank you, Kate. Hi to everybody. Really good to be here and share some thinking on the subject of energy with you. This is something that we could have done many, many hours of content on. So the selections that the three of us that are talking tonight are going to give you are very partial. There's lots more that we could do, and hopefully we may get another GeogLive energy in the future, because today I'm going to talk particularly about invisible energy that might come from water. So there's definitely a sense of awe and wonder how we can create, in effect, something from nothing for Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 children. And you've got a character there, bottom right-hand corner, a character you might know if you're a Key Stage 1 teacher. This is a character called William Whiskerton, a BBC character from some series of video clips that you may know about. And certainly he's going to take us on a bit of a journey towards the end, and I'm going to direct you towards that. But three key kind of inquiry questions that I would ask children if we encountered this sort of idea of invisible energy from water as we start off. So children, what does a power station actually look like? Could you draw me with your finger in the air what a power station looks like? Because I'm going to introduce you to this idea of a liquid battery and the idea that water might be able to turn the lights on and keep the lights on. How exciting. So certainly if I'm covering energy with student teachers or maybe with children, I might start to tap into that awe and wonder of these big palaces of power that we've had in the past. That's an image of Battersea Power Station, still standing today, as you may be aware, on the banks of the Thames, but certainly not generating anything like power now. It's a tourist attraction, it's a shopping centre, it's all sorts of homes, and it's very much a modern development with a new tube station there. So things change over time, and that's something that children will realise. We don't generate power from coal. We don't generate power in the same way we used to. And certainly around London, you've got Bankside Power Station, which is now Tate Modern, and you've got other places around the country where either the land is now flattened, there is no evidence of that energy generation there anymore, or we've perhaps repurposed and reused those buildings for other purposes. And even last weekend, there was a sense from Edd Moore and the Observer that these big cooling towers that we will not see in the future because we're not going to be generating perhaps in the same way power like we have in the past from coal. We're not going to be seeing these architectural kind of magnificent things, in my view, on the landscape. So what should we do with them? Can we repurpose them? Could children have a sense of awe and wonder about these things from the past? Because this really may be all they see, this kind of idea of transmission through the ground on transmission through the air. And maybe that idea of a plug-in car or a plug-in this or a plug-in that, that's the kind of energy view of the future. So we're kind of moving away in terms of energy speak from physically extractive, perhaps humanly exploitative, dirty fossil fuels, use once and leave a mess, polluting, to these kind of cleaner, greener energies. But of course, I can hear you shouting at the screen saying, yeah, but no, but how do we get these batteries? Where do they come from? And there's a whole story there, which we haven't really got time to go into now. So there is a sense that we're moving to this cleaner and greener, but is it really? Is it more complicated than that? And maybe towards Key Stage 2, we could get into that. So you can often see these lists. You may create these lists with children where you've got kind of fossil fuels and renewable and non-renewable. And you've got all these different ways that we might create energy. And we're going to particularly focus today on water, like I say, hydroelectric power stations. And certainly one thing I might say to the children is that we need to have an energy forecast, just like we need to have a weather forecast. People who plan these things, people behind this thing called the national grid, need to have a sense of what will happen when it's getting colder. So people are going to use more energy. People are going to have certain habits and patterns in how they live, and therefore we're going to need to create more energy. And this is where hydroelectric, this is where water to generate electricity could come in really helpful. And this is a graphic from the national grid, and this is an image of football. This is what happens at halftime and full time. We go from not many people using energy, probably putting on their kettles, using other sorts of energy around the home, just suddenly needing lots of energy. And again, this is where hydroelectric really comes in useful. When we've got these big events, when we've got popular TV, Saturday night TV, a big vote, a general election, maybe we've got national events like Clap for Carers, these weather forecasters, these energy forecasters need to think ahead so that we can get this energy, and we can get this energy quick, just in case something happens. So water is one story, water and gravity. This is where we're really thinking about today. But as you know, there are these other sorts of energies as well that we could have talked about, the wind and the wave and the sun and the energy from ground sources as well, heat energy from the ground. So I'm going to try and take a kind of Wales and England and then a Scotland approach, so you can kind of see different case studies that you might want to use with children. So first of all, I'm going to take you to Wales, to Dinorvig, the power station there, which is one of the fastest in the world. Again, once we're well booting in something. And this is a power station that can switch itself off and on in 16 seconds. And the water that's driving the turbines, the water that's using gravity to drive these turbines can really occur and shift from no energy to lots of energy in just 6 15 seconds. It can really be turned on if people suddenly need that energy for their kettles. But this is not a new technology. This is not a new energy. And some of you may be in the Northeast and may have come across this grand house built by the Armstrongs called Cragside. This was the first house in the world to have water power, and the National Trust has really brought back to life the ability for this house to be powered from the water that just happens to run past it in this more rural part of the country. So these are not new technologies, and in many ways Britain has pioneered these useful YouTube video there for the National Trust to have a look at. So we've got this kind of store and release, this storage of water and the release of water, which drives turbines, which really does help to create this very quick energy. So it's obviously going downhill, it's dropping down, and it's turning these turbines. So this is where the liquid battery idea comes in. And again, in the news in the last few days, this might be a possible solution for all sorts of places in the world. And this is an example from Portugal. It's never going to be the full solution, and certainly it's worth looking at how hydroelectric works kind of globally. You can see there two lines. You've got a hydropower line, which is declining in terms of power capacity, but is still relatively high, between 20% and 15% over the last 13, 14 years. But of course, wind really increasing, solar really increasing, and coal dropping, and natural gas dropping, and so on. So it's this kind of local and global picture as well that you're going to hear a little bit more about later as well. And certainly in the UK, we're only talking about 2 to 3%, but there are 1,500 schemes. So there are quite a number of small schemes that there may well be one near you. So big case study we're going to look at is Scotland and the idea of hydro power. So focus your mind on Scotland, whatever you know about Scotland. Where might that hydroelectric power station be? Where might that place where all that water is stored be? So we're zooming in, see if you can find Oban. We're going to be focusing on that road between Oban and Crenlarrick. You can see that in the centre of the screen. Another physical geographical map, really interesting to see that fractured landscape of Scotland there. But again, trying to find the orientation between Oban and Crenlarrick, see how watery that landscape is, how crisscrossed it is with lochs. Again, focusing on that road, the A85 between Oban and Crenlarrick, that's where we're zooming in towards. So zooming in again, there, A85 far clearer there. And another alternative view from Digimap for schools. They're really useful to see those different scales on the map. So you can see, perhaps in that image, in the square kilometre bottom left, at about between 800 and 900 metres above sea level there, you've got Cruachan Reservoir. That's what we're going to be focusing on. The falls of Cruachan, that's what we're going to be looking at in terms of what drives the turbines in this liquid battery. And there's another photograph. So one of my first questions was, what does a power station look like? This is a power station, but so much is hidden. And that's the really magical thing about this. And again, just zooming in again, a different scale again. Now, Google have really helped us with this. They've created a whole animated street view style website for you to have a look at. So I'm just going to flash this on the screen so you can see the opportunities this affords us to see exactly what happens in terms of this hollow mountain. So I do encourage you to, and I'll put this link into the chat later on, having a look at this. I love the phrase there where they said it's built almost entirely within the mountains. So they've hollowed out the mountain. It is the hollow mountain, and inside it is the turbine power, or the pipes is the opportunity for the power to be generated. So it looks like not a great deal from the surface. It looks calm and serene until everybody turns on their kettles. I mean, it walks you through and it kind of guides you in terms of what you might see and where some of the key vocabulary. But this is what you get a chance to see if you go inside. And I have been lucky enough to go on one of the guided tours from Scottish Power in there, and you put on your hard hat and high-vis jacket, big fan of that sort of geography, get on a bus and you drive straight into, see this James Bond style set. I mean, it really is something from another world, really. It's rare that you get a chance to see a kind of power station close up. But it's really interesting case study for you to have a look at and kind of read. And this is what you see inside. You get a chance to see this sort of construction within within the mountain. So the reservoir falls for 305 meters and enters these 4 giant turbines. So there's lots to learn here, lots to link to, and certainly the William Whiskerton BBC bite-sized class clips video is really helpful for you to see the potential of this, because it's done in a very appropriate Key Stage 1 style if you don't want to get into some of this kind of more technical detail. So I'm almost there. So really interesting opportunity here for you to share this particular type of energy with children. They may never have even thought this is possible. And certainly we do sometimes need to have this sense of what might be possible in geography, because there are some countries in the world which have landscapes which are far more appropriate for this sort of technology. And lots of other William Whiskerton videos as well, if you've never seen them, in all sorts of different contexts, and particularly, like I say, suitable for Key Stage 1. And more broadly, in terms of bite size, I was very taken with the number of different useful clips for other types of energy as well that you might want to have a look at. And just a final thing to mention, there's a really great book that's mentioned in Sophie's QR code that was shown at the beginning and we'll show again at the end if you wanted to look at wind. But otherwise, that's it from me. Thanks very much. And I'll put some links in the chat to help.
Brilliant. Thank you, Anthony. I think there's some really interesting ideas and really useful links to a range of different approaches. Are there any questions in the chat specifically for Anthony at the moment?
Not at the moment.
Okay. No. Okay, so we'll come back to the chat later. If you have any questions, please do post them in the chat and we'll have time for those at the end. So I'll pass over then to So thank you. Ed, if you want to explain what you're going to talk
about. Cheers, thank you. Cheers, Kate. Yeah, my name's Edd Moore. I'm from Damus First School in Dorchester in Dorset, and I'm going to talk to you about energy, what we do within our school related to the curriculum, and also about how it all relates to the DFE climate change sustainability strategy. So yeah, we'll get going. Next slide, please. The government Energy Efficiency Fund was set up to help schools to reduce their energy costs and reduce their carbon footprint. And each school got, on average, a primary school got about 16,000, leading all the way up to secondary school about 42,000, and then a further education college 290,000. And they were given some ideas of how they could spend the money, mainly first of all on sort of LED lighting and then possibly solar panels. One funny story, one of the schools near me, they sort of said, Ed, what could we spend our money on, say, an energy efficient dishwasher by any chance? And I said, no, there's you can make bigger gains on fitting LED lighting or solar panels, and that's where the money needs to go. And it has to go on energy efficiency. It cannot go on things like a dishwasher or PE equipment or going on a school trip or something like that. It has to be spent on energy efficiency. Next slide, please. Yeah, so at Damus, the way we went about it was we had an energy audit done, which then gave us an idea of what we needed to put in place. They gave us some ideas of things, five top tips of where we should start. And first of all, we replaced all our lighting to LED. And then we put this special chemical, endotherm, into our gas boiler, which basically foams up the pipes and it makes the gas move through the pipes more efficiently, and it guarantees to reduce our energy consumption by 20%. So that that's going to save the school an awful lot of money, and that means that the money can then go elsewhere where it's needed, on resources, on staffing, and anything else. Next slide, please. We also decided that we had an awful lot of money left after doing the LED lighting, so we put 40 new solar panels on our roof. We like to use local businesses, so we used West Eco Energy, who are just literally up the road. They can literally walk to us, which is great. And that's going to help our energy efficiency, save us 40%. 40% of our energy is going to come from solar. And we know we've been recommended that we keep on building up our solar. As we get more money, we need keep on adding more panels to our roof. That's where we're going to be able to reduce our energy efficiency from the grid, energy from the grid, and then also save the school some well earned money. Next slide, please. So we signed up to Energy Sparks, which is mentioned in the DFE climate strategy. And I can't speak highly enough of Energy Sparks. It's amazing. You can literally analyze and compare weekly, daily, monthly data. It's got free activities and actions that children can take. Got some amazing curriculum resources, and it even tells you where you can, where it links in with like science, geography, literacy, maths, you name it, DT. It covers everything. And it's all free, which is, don't get too many things for free nowadays. And a great point is that you can earn points. As you take actions, you earn points, and then points mean prizes. So as you earn more points, there's a great chance of you winning a cash prize for your school. So then you can spend it on, some energy efficiency or a eco project. So yeah, it's definitely worthwhile doing it, and really motivates the school to get involved, and children want to get involved, and the staff certainly want to get involved because the staff love a competition. They love a bit of bragging rights. They love getting one over on their other fellow staff members in the staff room, sort of thing. So and I think a big plus has been the school holidays, powering down during school holidays. That's when most schools use a lot of their energy, and they forget, no one's in that building using any of that energy. Power it down, turn it off. So yeah, I definitely, if you haven't heard of it, definitely worth looking into. Next slide, please. So Damus First School, we were national champions of this Energy Sparks competition. So basically, they do the points for the whole year, and we made the most actions. The children made the most actions through the work in the classroom and the work they were doing after school and in the community to win the competition. And they were really good at powering down, getting the staff and the other children to power down during the holidays. And the great thing about this competition is you can't cheat. You cannot cheat because they've got the data of how you're powering down. So there's no way of making up the results because they've actually got the raw data on their system. Next slide, please. So some of my top tips is to put together an energy monitoring group. It could be your eco reps, or like we do, we got a different group that do that. So it gives them a different group of children having a chance to lead something within our school. And they carry out monitoring of activities. They do regular spot checks of classrooms. They don't tell they don't tell teachers when they're popping in. It's all that moment of surprise. Are they doing it when they're not being watched? They do this sort of every 2 weeks just to keep everybody on their toes. And it's worked so far. And I think the key thing for us was making sure that teachers don't charge things overnight. It's obviously a safety thing. We had the fire service in just to get that through to staff that actually it can cause an electric fire if things are charged overnight. Next slide, please. You can also conduct a lighting audit, which is pretty cool. You could go around and count all the lights that perhaps need changing. All the ones that need changing to LEDs, count them all and put them in a form and get your caretaker involved. The more people you get involved, the better, to help with your energy campaign. And writing letters to like school leaders is also really good. Writing a letter to your head teacher, going to see your head teacher, getting the children to do that, get them to lead from the front, because then they're more likely that then their friends will join in, and then the rest of the school will join in too. Next slide, please. And like I said, getting your caretaker involved, your site manager is really important. Working together in collaboration, working with them. Most schools, like a few slides ago, most schools use 50% of their energy during evenings, weekends, school holidays. So it's encouraging your site manager to help you to power down, to turn these appliances off, and get an interview with your caretaker. Next slide, please. So yeah, here's some checklists from the Energy Sparks program website, and self-explanatory. You can hand these out and go around and tick them off as you go. Give them to teachers. Make sure before they go on holiday that they're powering down. They switched everything off to help you. And if you're not sure, get the caretaker just to do a quick once around to check that everything's being turned off. Next slide, please. And here are just some ideas of energy campaigns that are coming up. Energy Saving Week started today. But yeah, some great ideas to take part in. We always do the WWF Earth Hour. That's always a really good one. Getting children to power down over the weekend, turn their lights off, do something different, get them to play ball games, go out and do some stargazing. Just have the candles lit, and we get them to take a picture and then send it in via email. We have a massive show on a Monday or Tuesday to show what everyone was doing over that weekend for Earth Hour. Next slide, please. So yeah, power down days are really good to get the whole school involved in what you're doing, and these are best done between November and March. And take a reading before you do the power down day, and then take a reading afterwards, and then see how much you've saved on electricity. And one of the big things that we've done is the money that we save goes into a reward pot. So if classes are powered down correctly, they could put a proposal into the energy team, who look for the proposal, and they say yes or no whether they think that class should get a part of the money that they've applied for say part of a trip, a talk in the classroom, some equipment for their classroom, or some equipment outside. So it sort of gets the children to learn about how the value of money, and that they can save that and make that through powering down. Next slide, please. Another great one is appliance monitors. You can see how much energy is being used. Some councils even give them out for free. You can email them and they'll give you a whole box full. I know in Dorset they give us them for free, and I'm sure other councils, if you email them, they've got some boxes too. Next slide, please. Another great day, as well as powering down day, blinds up, lights off day. I think natural light has been a big thing to learn from, that children behave differently in natural light. When the lights aren't on, their behaviour is so much better. And if you've got the window open as well, and the heating isn't blaring away, it's amazing how much calmer they are as well. So that's another good idea to do. Next slide, please. And traffic lighting stickers. So you put these lights on, these stickers on the lights. So putting green little dots on to indicate that these can be switched off. Amber, you might have to ask a staff member if you can switch that switch off. And then red is like, no, like you can't switch it off like a fridge. And it's amazing how children literally are scurrying around like ants, like turning off lights and things, and reminding staff that they need to be powering down, switching it off, really like hassling them. And they soon toe that line. They soon realise they need to start turning off themselves, sort of thing. So yeah, it's always a nice little thing to do. Next slide, please. You can also make a poster. This is the poster that we made. We got a great graphic designer business just up the road, and he comes down, and now and again he's happy to volunteer his time for free, which is great. And he helped our energy team come up with this great poster of all the things that staff need to make sure they turn off before they go home. And it's just a quick reminder. But you can draw it. You can do anything. You can do a little video if you wanted to as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is me. This is me on the bike. Bike generator competition. We have this every year in our school. We have even like a little leaderboard going on. Who can through their human power, who can turn on lights, power a radio, a kettle. Always a bit of fun. Children love it as well. Brings a bit of an atmosphere going on. So Strands do something like this. So definitely worth contacting Strands to see if they've got a bike that they can, can generate power. But yeah, great to relate that to electricity. And then we got Earth Energy Education. They're an awesome organisation. You can go to basically, they've got links with lots of solar farms and wind turbines around the country, and you can go and visit these places, and it's all free. And they will even help you to fund the coach travel out there. But they can also come to your school and do some amazing workshops. We had them in a couple of months ago before Christmas, and they came and did some solar power work with our year 4s. Next slide, please. And finally, we do teacher exchange with Kenya, and it's really interesting to be able to compare what we do energy-wise and compare that with what they do in Kenya. And then that brings lots of talk about what other countries are doing. A few weeks ago, we had a great discussion about Sweden and about their wooden they've built the tallest wooden turbine, which is pretty cool because recycling turbines is a bit of a nightmare. But I know in Ireland, they've been making bridges and all kinds of things out of turbines. So there is a possibilities of reusing a turbine sort of thing. So yeah, it brings out lots of discussion. Next slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. I think there were some really useful ideas. I've had a quick look at the chat. I'll ask if there's any questions in a minute. But I think people are looking and getting some really useful ideas from your presentation and things that they hadn't heard of before. So that's been really interesting. Thank you. Steve, Jen, are there any comments or questions in the chat thread?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we'll go on to Paula's presentation, and we'll see at the end if there's any questions that have come up generally as well. Okay, so Paula, over to you.
Thanks, Kate. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for what a fantastic start. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Anthony. So much to think about. I've been making notes furiously. And Anthony, you kind of gave us some really good ideas for talking, particularly with Key Stage 1. And you said energy is a huge topic. And it really is, because although it's not mentioned very much specifically in the national curriculum, it kind of pervades everything and infiltrates into everything. And Ed had so many great ideas for making that practical and developing that agency in the classroom. So I'm going to try and tell some global stories, one of the kind of some big picture stuff, and point to some resources that might be particularly useful for us. So where is the geography, and how can we find the geography, and where does energy crop up? Well, we can think about those big concepts, particularly place, space and scale, and thinking about where are those natural sources of energy. Now, this is what's referenced, particularly in Key Stage 2 of the national curriculum, in that pupils have to describe and understand key aspects of human geography, including the distribution of natural resources, including energy and some other things as well. So that pattern of distribution is really important for pupils to think about. And Anthony showed us some of those patterns at a local scale, zooming into the power station in Scotland. Thinking about the place and how places are affected by energy consumption, energy generation, energy use, and how that in turn influences the kind of place and the quality of life that people have there, for good or for bad. How is the energy affecting the environment? How does it affect pollution and things like that? I'm particularly thinking about that sense of scale. So what are the global and the local stories that we can tell about energy and how they're connected? Thanks, Anthony. Well, of course, one of the really big important pictures that we want children to grasp is knowing that practically all of our energy comes from the sun. It takes solar energy, an average of about 8 1/3 minutes to reach the Earth from the sun, traveling through about 149 kilometers through space to reach the top of Earth's atmosphere. And of course, because the Earth is tilted, it doesn't reach the Earth evenly. It doesn't heat it up evenly. So the angle of the incoming sunlight means that it gets more energy concentrated over a smaller area at the equators, and it's more spread out towards the poles. And as the Earth's huge heat engine tries to balance this energy misdistribution, this inequality, if you like, it drives the atmospheric and ocean circulation and helps create the climate zones. So something that children might be doing in lower key stage 2, for example, is learning about climate zones and why they're like they are and where they are, and helping to explain that. So perhaps that's their first introduction to thinking about the big picture of energy. And already we've got this idea of inequality, this inequality of energy distribution. But there are two big energy problems that we also want children to kind of think about and learn and understand about. One is that hundreds of millions of people lack access to sufficient energy. So how does this affect and impact on their lives? And the other one, of course, is the fossil fuel story, in that the use of fossil fuels, we know, is driving climate change, the climate crisis, and causing a whole horde of other health impacts as well, such as air pollution. So how can we transition away to cleaner energy sources? Thanks, Anthony. So I'm going to be using some maps from World in Data, which is a fantastic site, and it's certainly something that Key Stage 2 children can cope with. For example, if we look at these two maps side by side, we can look at the energy use per person in 1965 and in 2022, and we can just grasp from that. We don't need to worry about the detail of the numbers in the key below. We can look at the colours and just grasp that energy use per person has increased enormously. Absolutely enormously, and it is still increasing. And Ed talked very eloquently and showed us some great ideas for how we can reduce our personal footprint in energy, which is something we should be doing. But overall, globally, that energy footprint is growing. And if we look at the map and the distribution of that, we can see that there's an unequal distribution as well, and that it's growing faster in some areas than in others, and that energy usage is larger in some areas than in others. So some great conversations to be had about maps like this and introducing this idea of energy inequality. Thanks, Anthony. One of my favourite images that I use this a lot, this is a more up-to-date one, this is from 2016 as opposed to the earlier 2012 one. This is lights as seen from space, and it's one of the many free resources from NASA. If you could see Earth lights all at the same time in a 2D image, it would look a bit like this. And you can have great conversations here about where is the energy inequality. Now, there's a great correlation in this image with population, with global population. But that's not the whole story, because if we look at the great continent of Africa, children might say, well, why is there no light visible, or hardly any light visible in the centre of Africa? What's going on in those countries? What about in central Australia? And there are two very different things going on here. One is the idea of inhospitable environments where not many people live, which is particularly true of Australia. And the other story, of course, is the lack of access to electricity, which is very prevalent throughout countries, particularly in the continent of Africa. There are other things we can note. We can note the great cities using lots of energy. We can note the population settlements along the Nile in North Africa. We can see the huge energy being used, the electricity concentration in the seaboard of the USA, eastern seaboard there. And we can see kind of where Canada begins and where the population is more spread out and not so much energy is being used. So lots of conversations to be had about that wonderful resource. Thank you, Anthony. Going to a map from the same year, 2016, I thought I'd look at this electricity generation. So you could get children to compare these two, the map of night lights and this map showing the electricity generation, and just talk about, where in the world is it most and why. And we can see that looking at this by country, we can see that China and USA feature very strongly as having the darkest colours, showing the greatest use. And the continent of Africa, again, is kind of much lower than the rest of the world, although Australia is kind of in the middle somewhere. So more conversations there. Thank you, Anthony. If we look at primary energy use, it's pretty much the same kind of picture with a few variations. But this brings up something else to think about, particularly in Key Stage 2 when we talk about energy. There's a lot of terms to come to be familiar with. So we can think about, what do these terms mean? Do we need to create glossaries? Do pupils understand, not just energy, what is primary energy? Primary energy is the energy as it is available as resources, such as the fuels burnt in power plants before it's been transformed. So the coal before it's burnt in coal power stations, uranium, the barrels of oil, if we're talking about fossil fuels, the raw energy, if you like. It's a term that's used most widely, so it's quite a useful one to become familiar with. And again, if we look at this, we can see USA and China here featuring very strongly in primary energy consumption. Thanks, Anthony. We need to be careful about these terms as well, because if we then switch and think about energy use per person rather than by country, then suddenly we can see that Canada, which wasn't featuring very strongly, suddenly becomes much darker. So what's going on there? Well, it's because there are less people, so it averages out, as a greater amount per person, whereas in China there's a much larger population, so that doesn't become quite so prominent. So we can start to become critical looking at maps and what they show and thinking about energy use. Do we mean by country or per person, and what's the difference of the implications? Thanks, Anthony. And Anthony talked particularly about hydropower. Now, if we look at the graph at the top right, we can see that it takes the lion's share of renewable energy generation source. But we can also see from the graph, which is quite encouraging, that huge upturn in wind and solar beginning to take a share as well. And if we look at this chart here, we can see whereabouts in the world hydropower is particularly generated, where it's mostly found. So we can have conversations about these natural resources of energy. And there are lots of other maps showing solar distributions and wind, of course. And we can talk about why they might be where they are and start to make connections. For example, perhaps making connections between a map of hydropower generation and a map of natural water resources, and looking at mountain ranges, and then thinking about what kind of factors need to be in evidence for hydropower to be generated. Thank you, Anthony. So if we think of wind power, for example, I've chosen wind because wind was the second largest source of electricity generation in 2022 in the UK. So we can bring it back, zooming into our own country again and make it more relevant. And we can see on this global map that the UK features quite darkly there. So if we zoom in to the UK, we can ask some stories about that. Gas, of course, is dominant, but wind is takes second place. Thanks, Anthony. So thinking about local stories, I'm going to zoom in again, thinking about that scale. We've told some really big stories about energy and looked at some of those global maps. We've looked at the UK, but what about local on the ground stories? Let's switch somewhere altogether. You might use some of these images, which are taken from one of the Ashton films that I'm going to talk about in a minute. And you could say to children, where do you think this is? What kind of a place is this? What kind of energy is being generated? So what kind of place might there be where you could have this kind of energy generated? And ask some questions and find out what children know. Now, this is actually Zimbabwe. There's some really nice positive images there showing the vibrant city and showing PV panels being fitted to a roof. Thank you, Anthony. I've just extracted some stills from the brilliant Ashton film. There are lots of short Ashton films on the website. If you go to ashton.org, there are lots of short 3-minute and 4-minute films from around the world with really positive energy stories about how people are using renewables to change lives. So, for example, here in Zimbabwe, in this particular village, there is an lack of energy access to electricity. So people can't use energy at night to read or to do other activities unless they use candles and paraffin stoves and things like that. So the solution is to train engineers to install solar power PV technology, which then makes it better for people and improves health as well. Thank you, Anthony. It's also a financial incentive. We can go over to the continent of South America, which is particularly relevant for Key Stage 2, where the Americans have studied in more depth, and look at the country of Colombia and show this image here. Again, this is a screen grab from one of the stories here in the city of Medellin in Colombia, and ask, what's the story? What's going on here? What can we see? What kind of things might we notice? What do you think the problem might be to do with energy? Thank you, Anthony. There's a different kind of problem here because of the climate crisis. Then there are lots of sort of global heating incidents around the world, with cities with where heat is a real problem. They're using generators to cool cities down, whereas in fact they could do what this city has done and install a lot more green planting. And it's a really positive story showing how they've reduced the overall temperature of the city by more than 2 degrees by having a huge program of planting, mimicking forest cover, using canopies at different level. And at the same time, they've also brought back into use some underused spaces that had become areas where they were overgrown, pollution was happening, and there was lots of crime happening. So it's a whole turnaround in this kind of way. They've also been able to train and employ gardeners, so raising the quality of life, improving health, reducing the impact on the environment of climate change, and making the environment a much nicer place for everyone to be. Next one, thank you, Anthony. Coming back to the local areas, again, you might ask in your local environment, as Anthony was saying, what kind of things do I notice in my environment? For my part, I'm on Sheppey, so I look out over the Kentish wind farm, the Kentish Flats, somewhere that the local school we can walk to and have a look at and find out about online and find out how it's contributing to our local energy generation. So, is this renewable? Yes, it is. Well, how is it affecting my life? Does it power my home? Can I keep a diary of my daily energy use, and what can it tell me? Thank you, Anthony. Lastly, I'm just going to bring it right back to the classroom. How can we link our curriculum to school grounds? Just making sure that the kinds of things we did, this is from my school when we had energy monitors as Ed did, and we used to try and link it to as much curriculum work as possible. When we installed our wind turbine, for example, we surveyed to think where was the best place to put it, who would we ask about its impacts, etc. So just making sure that we're bringing as much of this thinking as possible back into the curriculum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paula. That was really, I think the data and everything that we've been able to learn has been really, really interesting and will be really helpful for people to use in the classroom. So thank you very much for that. Sophie, are you still around? Sophie?
I am still here.
I'll pass over to Sophie, who has developed the Canva for some books around energy.
So if you scan the QR code, you can download a book list of some books that have different things to do with energy. And I just want to draw attention to a couple of books on the list. The first one is the Climate Emergency Atlas, because it is full of loads of different graphics and maps, and some of them are really, really interesting when it comes to energy. For example, it has one on your carbon footprint, but then it also has ones on solar solutions and winds of change. So it's looking at energy usage in the future, and you can have a look at those with the children and use those to stimulate discussion. And the other book I want to draw your attention to is on the next screen, I think, and it's The Climate Action by Georgina Stevens. It's one we use in our school as one of our key texts in Year 6. And again, it has loads and loads of stuff about the climate crisis but it has some pages in it which are specific to energy. So page 10 is actually entitled Energy, and it goes through It's one of the pages we go through with our children in school, but it goes through all the different types of energy, all different types of renewable energy, just to give the children that background of the different types of renewable energy. And the one thing I absolutely love about climate action is it has little bits on each page which says, what can we do? So it really brings that like agency to the children, and it doesn't make climate change this thing which is something big and scary that is happening, which, I mean, it is big and it is scary, but it gives them those little things which then goes, what can I do? So the one on energy says, renewable energy tariffs provide electricity from suppliers who use energy from renewable sources. Why not ask your school or parents if they have a renewable energy tariff? It will reduce their carbon footprint and shouldn't cost any more money. In fact, it might be cheaper. It will certainly reduce the environmental cost to the planet. So again, I think it's a lovely book. It has so much in it, but I love the way it brings it back to the children. There's another page later on in the book called Our Homes, and it has loads in there, but it looks at energy uses like specifically in the home as well, and it has more of what we can do in there. So yeah, they are just two brilliant books that look at energy use in the context of geography and climate change, and brings it to the children and what they can do.
That's great. Thank you, Sophie. That's been really helpful to have your input as well. And thank you for collating all of those as well. So are there any questions that have come up in the chat?
No, I think everybody is awestruck by the amount of material that's been produced.
I'm not surprised. There's been an amazing presentation. So thank you to all of our presenters this evening who have really given us a lot to think about in terms of how we teach energy and the different sources of support we can gather as well, and places that people, I think, haven't necessarily known about before. So that's been really helpful. So thank you all. Just a reminder, our Twitter handle, or our X handle, is on screen, so please do feel free to tweet us. And keep an eye on our account as well. We will post links to our future sessions. So if you did want to join us for our future sessions, you'll be able to see the links to where you get the tickets there. And then just a reminder, our next GeogLive is on the 28th of February and it's about rivers. And the GeogLive 20 is in April and is looking at how to make use of field. So thank you very much, everybody. And have a good evening.
Thank you, Kate.
Okay.